Hello again, welcome back everyone. LiquorHound here with you, and thank you for joining me once again for my year-end wrap-up video. This is where I kind of showcase my best of spirits of 2022. And throughout the year, I've tasted thousands of spirits, all right, different bottles. And these are going to be the ones that left the biggest impression on me. Of course, they may not have been the absolute favorite that I've had in that category, because I do have bottles, taste bottles that are thousands of dollars or super rare, super elusive type things. And those can be phenomenal. Heaven Hill 17 comes to mind right away when I'm thinking of that. It's great bourbon. $250 retail, but now on secondary it's like $1,000. And so, as great as that bottle is, or George T. Stagg's or William LaRue's and all that, I don't include them because of how hard they are to get nowadays. If you do find those, you're very fortunate. But I try to include bottles that you can still find, or find a very similar bottle to it. And I will give you runner-ups or honorable mentions. I'll show some. Of course, I am completely unscripted, so sometimes I will think of a bottle like, oh, that would also be great, and I'll just mention it. So hopefully you can watch through this whole video and learn a lot. But if you can, and if you want to jump to a specific category, let's say you want to jump to the Agave Spirits, go down in the description. I'll put time markers down there. Now, if you've been a viewer of mine for any time, you probably noticed that the quality of the camera has increased. The sound quality is much better. I'm going to still be tweaking the sound probably a little bit as I move forward, because this camera is brand new. But I want to thank my Patreon subscribers. So if you can join me over at patreon.com/LiquorHound, you get, of course, all my videos ad-free. You get them 2 weeks early, so you can hunt these bottles, before they go up on YouTube. But it's with help from my patrons that I was able to purchase that camera and upgrade my equipment. Of course, I am unsponsored, so I don't get any of these bottles for free. I don't get corporate sponsorships from distilleries, anything like that. So you always get unbiased and straightforward reviews from me. And that's just how I do my thing, and hope you enjoy that. So again, I'd appreciate your support over there if you can. But if not, don't worry about it. Hopefully you enjoy this video. All right, let's go ahead and get going. Canadian whiskey of the year. For me, I'm going to go ahead and give it to this Lot 40. This Lot 40 Dark Oak is what it's called, because it's a double barrel maturation on this 100% rye whiskey. This one is 96 proof. Retail pricing on it's going to be about $50 to $60, and that's going to take the win for me in the Canadian whiskey category. Close second, one that I see on shelves a lot, is the Alberta Premium Cask Strength. I still see batch 1 and batch 2 on shelves. Retail pricing on these are about $80, and so if you can find that, I think they do really well. They are sometimes a little hot when you fresh crack them, so go ahead and drink them down past the shoulder, maybe pour it on a big rock or something like that, and then give it time. Give it about a month or 2 or 3, and this thing can survive, and you'll see the edges kind of soften up a little bit on it. All right, Irish whiskey of the year. This one was a super close race, and I almost want to reverse these in my mind and put the runner-up as first place. But thinking of quality, I'm going to give the win to the Gold Spot 9-year-old. The Gold Spot 9 retail at $150. Very, very rich Irish whiskey. It's not the biggest ABV, but it does have a lot of viscosity, a lot of oiliness to it. Now, if you want high ABV at a great price, this Dubliner, this is like their special, I can't remember, Reserva Select, where the distiller picked the barrels for it. It's usually about 6 to 7 years old. But the giveaway on this one, when you see it on your shelf, is the ABV. This thing is about 116 proof for only $60. 6 to 7 years old. Really, really solid Irish whiskey. So that's going to be my honorable mention there. Moving on to non-peated Scotch. Okay, non-peated single malts. For that, I'm going to give the win to Glendronach Cask Strength. The Glendronach Cask Strength, this happens to be batch 10, for $100 is a great whiskey. This thing is very clean. You're not going to get any sulfur tones, anything like that, nothing odd. super funky. This is just straightforward, good sherried whiskey where the malt characteristic is still carrying through, that distillery profile still carrying on through. Very, very well done there at $100. If you can't find that, or maybe you want to spend a little more, another one that really made a big impression was the Craigellachie 17-year-old. Craigellachie 17, it's been around at least a couple years. Retail pricing on it's about $150. This is a well-made whiskey. Matter of fact, I think I like this one even over the current 23-year-old. But this is very, very well done. So $150, you can step up to the Craigellachie 17. Now, let's say you don't want to spend $150, but you still like the fruitiness of the Craigellachie. You always get that kind of grilled pineapple tone on a lot of Craigellachie from those worm tubs. Maybe you should go with this one. This is the Craigellachie 13-year-old. Retail pricing about $70, but this is the 13-year-old that was finished in Armagnac casks. Not to be confused with the standard 13-year-old that also does sherry casks. So this one, $70, very, very clean, really bright fruit, and I'm talking pears, a little bit of that kind of plumminess to it, but very subtle. And I just love the way that transitions, and it's a really good malt for only $70. Last but not least, in the non-sherried single malt category from Scotland, we're going to have the Bunnahabhain 12 cask strength. Now, I know technically this came out in 2021, but of course, as I mentioned many times in my videos, we're in Texas, and in Texas we have 3-tier systems, so bottles have to go through a whole lot of kind of red tape type things before they get to the stores. And so even though it was released in 2021, we didn't get it till early 2022. But this Bunnahabhain cask strength is an Islay distillery, of course, but this is non-peated. This is a big chocolatey malt. Very, very delicious. Lots of really nice fruits. This goes great with water. So if you want to add a little tablespoon of water, a few drops of water, if you even want to put it on a rock, this thing's going to survive it at only $100. Okay? All right. Peated single malt of the year from Scotland. So peated Scotch. The win's going to go to Octomore. So the Bruichladdich Octomore. This is the 13.2. The 13.3 was also great. Okay? I'm going to give it to the 13.2 because of the price point at $260 compared to the 13.3, which was over $300. It was about $320 for a 5-year-old whiskey. So this shatters the old $10 per year mark because this is $60 per year. But at a 5-year-old whiskey, it is just like most of those Octomores, phenomenal. It's just amazing grain. They have a great water source, I guess, and it's just, they're doing amazing things there with Octomore. But let's say you don't want to spend $260 on a peated malt. Ooh, this was great. The Balvenie, the week of peat. A distillery that's not known for doing peat. But this 17-year-old, this is the 17, not the 14. The 17-year-old at $150 is phenomenal because the Balvenie profile, that honey malt characteristic, is still there. And it tastes like old whiskey. This tastes like it's 17-year-old. The Balvenie 16, what was that one? The Pinot cask. That one didn't quite taste 16 because I think the Pinot casks were kind of taken away. It wasn't doing a whole lot. And so, anyway, $150, 17-year-old that tastes like it's 17. Great, great buy. The week of peat from Balvenie. All right. Port Charlotte's going to be another one out there. Now, this is the OLC version. This one retails about $130. But I'm going to tell you this. If you can't find this one, don't worry about it. Just get the Port Charlotte 10-year-old at only $65, maybe $70. That's a great, great peated whiskey, all right? Port Charlotte, fantastic stuff. Now, another Port Charlotte, or at least it's assumed to be Port Charlotte, that's making the list today, is a Kirkland product. The Kirkland Islay Single Malt at only about $30 to $40. Undisclosed distillery. People kind of tend to think it's Caol Ila, Port Charlotte, probably Port Charlotte, but it is young, so it's probably a six-ish year old malt. Great value, Really nice, good ABV, 100 proof, so lots of flavor. That's going to make the list. If you can't find any of those, go to Kirkland, your Costco liquor stores. They tend to have some great, great stuff. That's one of them. Let's see. All right, that's going to do it for the peated malts. Now let's go ahead and get into Bourbon of the Year. Bourbon of the Year, hands down, without going to that Heaven Hill 17, is going to be this Hardin's Creek Jacob's Well bourbon. The Hardin's Creek Jacob's Well, fantastic, at about $150 retail is what that was supposed to be. I see it online at about $200, but it is very, very old bourbon. Beautiful bottle. I mean, that is just a great looking decanter. It's got a little leather strap up top. And they released two versions of this year. They released a yellowish label. That was the 2-year-old that Freddie No distilled there. Their little micro distillery. Although it's not micro, it's really nice. But this is highlighting the older, the other side of that. From a 2-year, the blue label, this one, the Jacob's Well, is a 15-year, okay? Because it has 15 and 16-year-old beam bourbons in it. 16-year-old traditional beam, 15-year-old old granddad in this, bottled at 108 proof. 15.33 years is what it averages out to. Fantastic. $150. Now, maybe you don't want to spend $150. Maybe you only want to spend $25. Wow. Benchmark. Foolproof benchmark. Fantastic. I'm sorry, barrel strength. What do they call it? Foolproof. Yeah, that's right. Foolproof. It was always barrel strength, always something. But the foolproof is mash bill 1. So mash bill 1 being the low rye mash bill that Buffalo Trace uses. We're talking, that's the mash bill that does Eagle Rare, George T. Stagg, the E.H. Taylor line uses mash bill 1. So for $25, you can get a 125 proof version. All right. Now it is younger. It is younger than all those, but really good flavor for only $25. Now, Knob Creek, another runner-up. I'm going to show you the 15-year-old. The 15-year-old 100 proof Knob Creek retailed at about $125, $130, but the 12-year-old version of this at only $55, $60 is probably a better buy. The 12-year-old is very, very nice. It's much more fruit forward, brown sugar forward than even this one. This one has that rich, heavy oak, so you have to, if you like oak, you're going to like this one. If you just like that real kind of sweet, fruity bourbon, then go with the 12-year-old at only $60. All right? All right. Now, a big bourbon that just came out, and I'm talking just came out as in last weekend, is, and I don't have the exact bottle, okay? I don't, because I haven't been back to the distillery, but Ironroot Republic Distillery does a tri-barrel or a winter solstice tri-barrel each and every year now. So, okay, they do a summer and a winter. This year's winter tri-barrel is the Hazmat Harbinger. It's going to be 141.5 proof. Retail pricing at only about $87. These are phenomenal, all right? Tons of color in them, lots of flavor. It does not drink. I've had it many times already because, fortunate to be able to work up there. But at 141.5, to me, it drinks like closer to like 115-ish, right in there. It's phenomenal. It's very, very dangerous. So if you're not already on Ironroot's email list, you should be on there, because you can get involved in these raffles, because that's typically how they'll do their releases. You can get in the raffle. If you win the bottle, you have like 6 months to get up there and pick it up, or have somebody pick it up for you. It's well worth it, because, as great as, the Harbinger 115 is, to get those special releases, those, tri-barrel and stuff like that, it's well worth getting on that email list, all right? All right, but here's another one. Speaking of Costco and Kirkland's, as I did with the Islay single malt, the bottled in bond Kirkland 1 liter at $30. It's a Barton product, all right? So it's basically Barton bourbon at 100 proof. Bottled in bond, meaning it's at least 4 years old. It's only $30. This is a really nice bourbon. It's not going to blow you away, all right? But let's say you have company over and they want to sip some, you can do that. Or you have company over that wants some, bourbon and Coke, you can throw it in bourbon and Coke and, let it do it for $30. Really, really well done. They also did a small batch. I actually like the small batch better than this one. So if you see that Kirkland small batch bourbon, get that one. If you can't, get the bottle and bond. You'll be fine. All right, Rye Whiskey of the Year. Now, Rye Whiskey of the Year, to me, it came down to 3 bottles. And I was just kind of going back and forth with them. And my thing is, I love flavor, okay? I love flavor. I love rye whiskeys that have a lot of flavor, long finish. That's what I'm always looking for. And even though I am a part of St. Sally and Ironroot, I had to give St. Sally the Nobleman the win here for me. Not because I played a part in it or I'm, the co-blender there with Jonathan. It's not that, okay? It's the fact that how well it came out and what it reminds me of. This Nobleman Rye is rye whiskey, 95.5 is the mash bill, 95% rye, 5% malted barley. This is sourced mostly from MGP. There is some Ironroot rye in here, so that's grain to glass rye. It is bottled at 107 proof. It was finished in Hungarian sweet wine casks known as Tokai, okay? Tokai is basically very similar to Sauternes, where the grapes are allowed to concentrate the sugars on the vine. They kind of start shriveling up. They get this perfect weather conditions that kind of create, help it just completely kind of shrivel. And then they pick the wine, pick the grapes, make the wine for Tokai. It's very similar to Sauternes, all right? So if you're familiar with that, this rye is a combination. I think it was about a 5, 6, 7-year-old barrels that went into it, but it is amazingly savory. And when I say that, tons of orange oil, clove, a light smokiness to it. It reminds me of old 15 to 18-year-old ryes, all right, that flavor profile. This isn't a ton of pine or any dill or anything like that. This is just sweet and savory, and I love it at 107 proof. Total Wine is where you can find that, by the way. Retail pricing on it is $80. Now, close second, and this one has more age on it and it has a higher ABV, is the Redemption Barrel Proof Rye. This is a $100 bottle. Does not have a finish. This is straight rye. Fantastic release here. I really, really love this bottle at $100 as well. And so if you can't find the Nobleman, maybe you can find the Redemption Barrel Proof Rye. If you can't find the Redemption Barrel Proof Rye, maybe you can find Rossville Unions. They do barrel proof, they do cask strength picks. So a lot of stores and groups do picks of this. And if you happen to see those where they're high ABV, they're typically about 116-ish, somewhere in there, well worth picking up these at only $70. Rossville Union, okay? All right, now we're moving on to, this is going to be basically malt whiskey of the year. And this could be from all over the world. I guess better term would be world whiskey of the year. So not counting, single malt scotches or Islay malts or American bourbons and ryes. This can be from anywhere else, okay? Westward killed it with the single barrel picks they did this year. I've had 3 that I can think of that just blew me away. The others that I had were equally great. Now I would say they weren't equally great. They were almost as good. But the Westward single barrels, we're talking proof-wise, they're up to 129, 138 proof for some of them. And I did a review on that on YouTube, so you can always go back and look at it, a couple of those. But these are phenomenal at only $100, $110. I think they're about at 110, 120 sometimes. But just pack a huge tropical note. Now, if you don't want to spend $120, maybe you only want to spend like $50, $60, you can get the regular version, not the single barrel. You can get the regular Westward. It has like a tealish looking label. That thing is super, it has all this flavor. It's just brought down to a more manageable proof. I want to say it's like 92, 96, somewhere in there. Good, rich flavor. Great buy for Westward. They were just light years to me above most this year. Second place, people always ask me about Japanese whiskey, Yamazaki 12. Unfortunately, Yamazaki 12 is $150 now. I remember when it was $25. So that kind of hurts. So $150, you're still getting a really nice single malt whiskey from Japan. Still think it's worth it. 150 is right in that line, though. We're getting to the point where I'm going to be like, you probably pass on that. But if you were looking for a Japanese whiskey, to me it's going to be that one, possibly this one, the Nikka from the barrel. But this is not single malt, all right? This is a blended malt, so blended, basically different distilleries, single malts blended together. About $80 for this nowadays for Nikka from the barrel. But behind the Yamazaki 12, the one that I actually have is Rampur Double Oak, all right? Or the Double Cask, my bad. So Rampur Double Cask at only $90 was a really, really big flavor bomb. Again, this is more tropical, pears, that type thing, honey, and kind of real, just fantastic. This one is more unique on the spice characteristic. It reminds me of being in a spice market. You get the cardamom, you get all these other ginger and different aromatics in the air. Comes through on this whiskey. Great value, $90. I think it's worth it. Another one that kind of made an impression on me, and this doesn't go for everything they do, but this one was really, really good. Balcones out of Waco, Texas. They do some amazing single malt, okay? And a lot of the single malt that I like from Balcones are single cask expressions. So if you see the single casks, and they're typically high ABV, run about $80, I recommend picking them up. This happens to be a rum cask finish done on one. I mean, look at the color of these things. It's a huge building they have. It does get very warm in the summer, so they're getting a lot of extraction. Balcones single casks are really, really well done. Okay, moving along, Cognac of the Year. Cognac of the Year is going to go to this Fontvieille number 35 from Ragnaud-Sabourin. Retail pricing on it's $155. I saw K&L had it out of California. I think Benny's had it. There's a lot of stores that carried it. I still see it a little bit online, so that's going to be, I think when I got it at K&L, I want to say they were at $135. But Cognac of the Year, that's it. This has that really nice soft fruit, that ruby red kind of grapefruit oil in it. Essence, that's an old cognac note, by the way. That has it. Now, another one that has that ruby red grapefruit oil, but even much more so because it's much older, PM Spirits Homage, Yves and Jean-Noel release. Now, this cognac is about $400 to $500, so not cheap, but the cognacs that went into this were from like 1925, I want to say to 1950, 1960, somewhere in there. Very, very old cognac in that. So that price point of $400 to $500 is not bad when you consider what you're seeing from Hennessy with the Paradis or the Paradis Imperials that contain cognacs that old, but are, $1,000 and up. Okay. All right. Another one, and I've shown this one, I think, in one of the other years, but the Ferran Selection de Angus, or a Selection of Angels. This cognac at retail pricing, I want to say it's $200. It used to be $150, but this is very, very well done as well. Ferran's always doing really good stuff, but this one made a big impression on me throughout the years, and it is still a very, very fine cognac. Now, if you don't want to spend all that, $200 and up, let's say, maybe you only want to spend $60. To be honest, now I'm thinking about it, Kelt VSOP is really inexpensive. It's pretty good. The cast strength Kelt's really nice. But this PM Spirits XO cognac at only about $90 is very solid. Of course, XO tells you it's at least 10 years old. Just a really nice, simple, plain label, good quality cognac at, again, reasonable price there. PM Spirits XO. Moving on to Armagnac of the Year, Delord. Man, Delord does it each and every year. I keep thinking they're going to hit a point where they're running out of stock, or they just can't source really good, stuff. But man, their inventories must be huge, because this year They released this one. It was a 1975 vintage, 46-year-old Armagnac. Of course, 80 proof, because at 46 years you're losing a lot of proof in the barrel through all that. Retail pricing on it, $140. It's not just oak, all right? When they start getting up into those 40s and 50-year-olds, you got to be concerned with that. And when I saw that color, I was definitely concerned with that. But when I tasted it, it was just tangy fruit balancing out that nice oak that was not getting too dry. It was just, again, a word I use a lot, phenomenal, all right? Another one that I always like to showcase this one when I'm tasting people that are into brandy or into cognac, Armagnacs, and I said, you always hear about Rancio, right? Well, Rancio has a ton in this era at 25-year-old. Charles Aznavour, signature edition. Retail pricing on this bottle is about $200. Look at that color. Nice, straightforward little bottle. This is our Armenian brandy, so not Armagnac, not coming out of France. But this has a ton of Rancio tone. So when we're talking, you start getting into that mushroom, that earthiness, that cheesiness, right? Almost like a real fine French cheese. This has that tone to it. Not quite blue cheese, but yeah, you can definitely tell. Good flavor in that. All right. Now, on that same Rancio tone, because I love Rancio. Rancio, when it starts coming in, when those old brandies start getting that characteristic, I love it, all right? This one, the Chateau de Bruvel, at $160. This is a 20-year-old version. They do younger versions, but this 20-year-old just has a ton of Rancio. Now, this is a Calvados, okay? Calvados is typically made from apples, but this Calvados uses pears, and I think maybe a little apple, but a lot of pears in this one, so that comes through. It's almost like what you imagine like a honey mead wine, when they make mead. Kind of has that characteristic, but with a lot of pears and a lot of that Rancio of, again, to me this one is more blue cheese, soil, damp earth, dark cellars, that type thing. That's what this one has. Love that bottle. And of course, I still see it on shelves, and I still love it. The DeRose 20, honorable mention. Retail pricing on DeRose 20, about $90. Has a touch of Rancio, which is surprising, because when you start getting into 30-year-old, 40-year-olds, and 30 and 40-year-old versions of that, not as much Rancio, but the 20 has it. Okay, and I think that's simply because they took an old barrel, old cask, probably put it in the blend, and that's what imparted it. All right, rum of the year. Rum of the year, Holmes K. I do have a Mauritius rum here to highlight. This is a 15-year-old rum, aged entirely in cognac casks. There was 2 casks of this done. $110, 100 proof, ton of flavor. And as I mentioned, I love when they get that ruby red grapefruit on this one. It is definitely all in that. So that's a really great cognac cask that it was in. But if you can't find this one, any of those Holmes K's are phenomenal. And they're picking them from all over. If you like Jamaican rums, they do Jamaica picks, Fiji picks, which is almost like a Jamaica light. Usually, I've had some Fijis that are over the top with the funk, even more so than even some Jamaicans. But for the most part, Fijian rums are a little lighter in that ester profile. Belize rums, as they're doing. The Barbados rums, they did a port cask Barbados that I reviewed recently. Still great. So Holmes K gets the win. Basically, you pick it. It's going to be great from Holmes K. Runner up, the Hampton Great House Rum. This is from last year. I haven't gotten this year's yet because it's not here yet, as I mentioned earlier. Retail pricing on the Great House Rum is about $100. This is Jamaican rum. They use several different Jamaican marks or ester concentrations to create this blend, and it is well worth the $100. If you like Jamaican rum, you need Great House Rum in your life, all right? Now, let's say you only want to spend $30, because this is $110, this is $100. Let's say you don't want to spend that much money. Dorley's 12, I still see it on shelves every time I'm in Total Wine. I see it there, and I'm amazed that it's there at $30, because this is Barbados rum. They're not adding any sugar to these. Matter of fact, none of the ones I showed you are they adding sugar to. These are all natural, pure rums, and I think they're beautiful. So This D'Orly's 12 at $30. Great, great buy. I think everybody should have this in your bar, by the way. All right. Let's see. Tequila of the year. Tequila of the year is going to go to, now this one's a little expensive, but the Cascahuin Extra Añejo for $200 is really, really good. Now, it is $200, so that is a knock against it in my book a little bit, because Agave Spirits typically don't hit that mark. But when they're really, really well made, so like if you look at the, even the G4 Extra Añejos or the Tapatio Excelencia, those type bottles, I don't mind spending that kind of price point if they're really, really great value. And this is going to take my win because it gives me all that agave flavor, gives me nice rich oak that's not getting too bitter, it's not over oaked. I mean, look at the color. That's just nice right there. That's what you want, as my buddy says. All right. If you can't find that, you don't want to spend $200, maybe you can find the Art de Nom 1146 Añejo. The 1146 Añejo retails for $90. I see it at Total Wine. I see it at my local stores around here. Specs, I think, even carries it sometimes. But this is a great Añejo tequila at only $90. So, great one to pick up. Beyond that, El Tesoro single barrels. El Tesoro single barrels, they retail about $60 for Reposado, maybe up to $130 for the Añejos. But the single barrel picks from El Tesoro are fantastic. And just like I mentioned with the rums, these are all natural tequilas. They're not doing the additives or the added sugar component, which they don't add sugar directly. Of course, they'll supposedly use barrels that had agave nectar in them, and then they dump the agave nectar, and then they fill it with the tequila, and that's how they get the sweetening sometimes, all right? So, but none of these have that. They're very, very, really nice, well-made, well-crafted tequilas. All right. Next up, these are going to be Agave Spirits. They're not technically all Mezcal. We have a Raicilla in here as well. But Cuentacuentos. This is the Angel Cruz Robles, made from Coyote Agave. Retail pricing on this one is about $150, 150-ish. I've seen it kind of fluctuate a little bit. But this bottle in particular was made for the great state of Texas. And that's what it says on the bottle. This one just had a ton of flavor, and I love this bottle. So if you happen to see this near you, or a version of this made by Angel Cruz Robles, don't be afraid to pick it up. He makes phenomenal mezcals. Next up, another one. This is another kind of a unique brand as far as Five Sentidos makes really good mezcal. The regular Espadín comes in a little squatty bottle, very similar to actually this rum kind of shape. And the Five Sentidos is always great, okay? But this one was done for a local store near me. It was Tobala and Quiche. And these two agaves together just made phenomenal spirit. And so I thought this pick was great. It was actually picked by the store Tricks of the Trade. Great, great buy. Now, last one. I mentioned this was my Agave Spirit of the Year last year. I still see it on shelves, so I got to bring it back out because it just doesn't make sense that this is still there. But Bonete Costa, they do a Sierra and a Costa version, two different ones. Of course, Sierra being the mountains and the Costa being by the coast. This one is $70. Bonete is Raicilla, so almost like mezcal being made in Jalisco, but they use the sacred oyamel tree as basically almost like the column in the still. Next up, Kyoto Kinobisei Gin. Now the Kinobisei is basically a Navy strength gin. $75. They use 11 botanicals. They actually blend that for the strength, meaning they have a lower strength one. I think that one's about $50. But the lower strength one, they'll blend it and they have it. This isn't just that with less water added, basically. No. What they actually do here is actually blend the separate components and they kind of tweak it to where they feel like it's just right at that strength. All right? Next up, honorable mention, Graywell Gin. still out there. It's still great. Using a lot of California botanicals, $35. Solid gin. If you can't get that, or you want a more traditional style, because this one does have like almonds in it, sea kelp, California little limes, and all this type of stuff. If you want something a little more traditional on the flavor profile, Sipsmith at about $30, still a great gin. So Sipsmith out there as well. Vodka of the year. This one I actually am shooting a completely new vodka review lineup, basically, where I'm going to tear through like 12 or 13 of them, 14 of them, something like that. And I went and picked these up all brand new, fresh this week, and tasted them last night just to verify compared to what the previous ones I've had. And these are the winners. So Stoli Elite is going to be the winner at $40. This one is very clean, soft, little lime, almost like a little lemon lime, almost oil to it. As far as the flavor profile, I really like this one. It's actually made in Latvia, not in Russia anymore. I think they left Russia in 2000 when Putin came in. So this is, Latvia vodka. Really nice. Next up, second place, runner-up basically, Ketel One. This Ketel One, back in the day I bought a Ketel One and it was not good. But I think I just got a bad batch. This new Ketel One, fantastic. A little more flavor from the wheat, because both these are wheat derived. A little more flavor coming through here because they use a combination of pot and column distill in this product. Very close race between these two. Ketel One's only about $22. So if you're looking to save money, probably go that route if you want a little more flavor. But if you're just looking for that real clean vodka for a martini, yeah, Stoli Elite. Now another one that works is, and I'm going to showcase this one third, Good Night Loving. Good Night Loving vodka coming out of Texas. They are sourcing their vodka. And what I mean by that is I think they're bringing in vodka probably from MGP, corn-based vodka, so distilled from corn. But then they're bringing it down to Austin, Texas, where they're blending it and kind of using some of their spring water from their land there in Fredericksburg, right around there. And it supposedly creates this very creamy, soft vodka. And I will say, Good Night Loving, very creamy and soft. Good flavor, not any of that rubbing alcohol tone that you'll get on some inferior vodkas. This is a really well-made vodka at only $20. All right, last but not least, Robert Cavalli. This one's he's an Italian fashion designer, and hence the unique bottle. They do different, like a chrome one and a gold one, but I think they all contain the same vodka. So this is just the regular $22 bottle. He's using wheat as well, grown there in Italy. Really nice vodka. A little more pepper on this one than the others, but as far as it being fairly clean and without any, harsh tones to it, really solid vodka as well. So that's going to be another option for you out there. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video review. As I mentioned in the beginning, consider joining me over at patreon.com/LiquorHound and become a supporter to help me keep these unbiased, straightforward, honest reviews going. And if not, hey, I thank each and every one of you for being here. You can always contact me here on YouTube, leave a comment. I'll try to get to it just as soon as I can. Thank you, each and every one of you. Have a happy new year, happy holidays, and let's look forward to a fantastic 2023. Everyone have a great day, and cheers.